Internal Revenue Service IRS Tax News. Tax Time Guide. Use the Where's My Refund tool or IRS2Go app to check tax refund status. IR 2021-60, March 18th, 2021, Washington. The Internal Revenue Service today reminds taxpayers that the most convenient way to check on a tax refund is by using the Where's My Refund tool. There's a link to that tool. You can also find it at the IRS website, IRS.gov, IRS.gov, or through the IRS2Go Mobile App, so you can actually check it on your phone, which is the coolest way to do it. I haven't done it yet there, but I might do that at some point in the future. There is a link here as well to the IRS2Go mobile app. So taxpayers can start checking their refund status within 24 hours after an e-file return is received. In addition, Where's My Refund provides a personalized date after the return is processed and a refund is approved. So let's go through that one more time. Obviously, if you file the tax return for the 2020 year, then you're going to be looking for your refund, and you could be checking out that refund. The fastest way to file the taxes to get the refund the fastest, typically being some type of e-file format where you're going to be sending in the tax return by e-file, meaning you can use software in order to fill out the tax return. You could take a look at the IRS website for free software, possibly having access to the free software. And if you have the direct deposit information, then that will be the fastest way to get the refund. Once the tax return is filed, if you used some kind of software to do so, oftentimes there's going to be feedback from the software saying that the tax return has been received. That's the first point of a little bit of relief that you can have. You could say, well, at least, it went out, which is a little bit nicer than mailing it, because then you're kind of stressful as whether it is in the mail or not, whether they actually got it and processed it. And then, of course, you want your refund after that point in time. That's where the Where's My Refund tool kind of comes into play, because you can check in on that. So taxpayers can start checking their refund status within 24 hours after an e-filed return is received. So once the e-filed return has been going into the IRS, within 24 hours, you should have some type of information, hopefully, on the Where's My Refund application. In addition, Where's My Refund provides a personalized date after the return is processed and a refund is approved. So go paperless. Now more than ever, the safest and best way to file a complete and accurate tax return and get a refund is to file electronically. So they're trying to push everyone to get the electronic filing and the direct deposit. They've been doing this for some time, but with the social distancing and whatnot, they've increased the drive to do this. And obviously, one of the incentives they can provide is, if you are receiving a refund, possibly processing that tax return and getting that refund to you faster. If you owe money, then you might not have as big of an incentive to do the electronic filing and whatnot and the direct deposit, because you owe them money. It might not be as big a deal, but even then, it's nice to know that the return has been processed, it's not going to be lost in the mail, and so on and so forth. Now, note that when we first had these electronic returns and the direct deposits, it was also kind of a security concern for a long point in time, and more all this stuff is being done online. And so they're saying they also say here it's the safest and best way to file the tax return. So they're trying to say it's a secure way to do that, but you can do your own research on that as well. So in any case, taxpayers can visit IRS.gov/filing. There's a link to that here for more details about IRS Free File, free file fillable forms, and free tax preparation sites. So if you haven't done your tax preparation yet, many people probably has not. I believe they extended the date as well. So you can then look into the software. They are trying to get people to use the electronic software. And as part of that effort, it looks to me like they've gone to some of the big software providers, which are third-party software providers, not part of the IRS, and ask them to then have a free part of the software for individuals that have fairly basic returns or those under a certain threshold of adjusted gross income. And you can find those and sort through those on the IRS website at IRS Free File. That's a great option. And then they also have the Free File Fillable Forms. I don't really recommend doing your taxes with the Free File Fillable Forms unless you are experienced in doing the taxes, almost basically by hand. The tax software is a lot easier to use because it's going to limit the errors that you have and so forth. But The free file fillable forms are available, and the forms and instructions are also available on the website. So whenever you're doing your own taxes, it's useful to look at the forms and the instructions, of course, and possibly even fill them out so that you can double check what you input into possibly the software or what your tax professional is giving you so that you have a better understanding of it. There's also free tax preparation sites you can take a look at. So they're a little bit more limited this year because of the social distancing and whatnot, but many people would like to talk to someone in person still about the tax preparation. They're not as comfortable with this online, software and whatnot. So you can possibly do that as well. So e-filing is also available through a trusted tax professional. So if you go to a tax professional, they will almost certainly be using some type of tax software and therefore, of course, have the option of e-filing and typically the direct deposit information as well that could be put into that software. So refund timing. While most tax refunds are issued within 21 days, some may take longer because return requires additional review. So they're saying that on average, that looks like an average to us here, we have a 21-day average. So if you electronically file and you have the direct deposit information, they're thinking 21 days on average. Because it is an average, that means you might get it sooner, but you might get it later as well. And if anything holds it up, then it might come out a little bit later. And some of the things that are actually more complex have to do with the lower income levels, lower taxable income levels, like refundable credits, like a child tax refundable credit portion possibly, or the earned income tax credit. Because those are more complex and they're more likely to be subject to fraud, people trying to commit fraud in getting a false refund because these credits go beyond the tax liability. You get a refund, which is more like a benefit, then the IRS has to be more vigilant and take better care about those types of returns, and they can actually take a little bit longer. So there are several reasons a tax return may take long. The return may include errors or be incomplete. So obviously if they see something that is incorrect with the tax return, that might hold up the processing of the tax return. If you use tax software, it's more likely that you're not going to have that issue because the tax software will typically give you data if it's wrongly processed, right? So the software can actually limit many of the errors a lot just by the use of the software and having it as an internal control on the processing of the return. The return could be affected by identity theft or fraud. So if there is identity theft or fraud, or they suspect identity theft or fraud, meaning, for example, someone filing a return when they're not actually the person that should be filing the return, then that's a big concern, especially these days with these kind of refundable credits, because people that could attempt to get access to these refundable credits through theft or fraud. So the return includes a claim for the earned income tax credit or additional child tax credit. So those two credits have a refundable portion to them. That makes them more complex. That also makes them subject to fraud because they're kind of the easiest things if people were going to try to steal someone's information and file a fraudulent tax return to try to take advantage of the earned income tax credit and the child tax credit due to them being refundable type credits. So the time between the IRS issuing the refund and the bank posting it to an account, since many banks do not process payments on weekends or holidays. So that shouldn't take too long of a difference, but might be a couple days if it was processed on a weekend or a holiday, because bankers have banker days. They don't work on weekends or holidays. That would be horrible. So the IRS will contact taxpayers by mail, or more information is needed to process a return. Taxpayers claiming the recovery rebate credit, there's a link to the recovery rebate credit here on their tax return, will not cause a delay in the processing of that tax return. So they're saying, hey, if you file the tax return to claim the recovery rebate credit, which is a credit linked to the economic impact payments, the EIPs, round 1 and round 2 that went out in 2020, those economic impact payments basically being the prepayments to the recovery rebate credit for that would be filed on the 2020 tax return. You would only need to file the 2020 tax return recovery rebate credit if there was a problem with the economic impact payments round 1 and round 2, not including round 3, which just went out this year, and we'll deal with that, later, apparently. So, and that they're saying that that's not going to be one of the things that should cause the holdup. That should be fairly easy to process, you would think. However, It is important that taxpayers claim the correct amount. If a correction is needed, there may be a slight delay in processing the return, and the IRS will send a notice explaining any change made. Refunds may be delayed while the IRS makes any necessary corrections. So if they see an error, for example, you say on your return, I didn't get any money for the economic impact payments round 1 and round 2, and therefore you're claiming a recovery rebate credit. But on the IRS side of things, they're saying, hey, look, we see that we sent out like 2 checks here. Then obviously there's going to be some inconsistency, and just like any inconsistency, that might delay the return. That would just be like same thing as if you filed a W-2 tax return and box 1 said that you earned, $60,000 and you put $50,000 on the return. Well, the IRS can just automatically with their computer, without even a person, you would think, match up what they have, which is the W-2 information, to what's on the tax return. There's going to be an inconsistency. You would think that would slow up the return, and you'd probably get a letter saying, hey, look, we have different information from the employer, and we recommend this correction. We want more money. So something like that. So fast and easy refund updates. Taxpayers can use Where's My Refund to start checking on the status of the return within 24 hours after the IRS acknowledges receipt of an electronically filed return, or for 4 weeks after the taxpayer mails a paper return. The tool's tracker displays progress through 3 phases. Phase 1, return received. Phase 2, refund approved. And Phase 3, refund sent. So that's nice to have, because again, if it's nice to be able to see that if you sent in the return, that they received it. So that's the first thing. It's like, okay, it went through. They got it. They didn't kick it back. That means no one else filed the return with my social security number or tried to commit fraud or stole my identity or anything. First level of relief. Refund approved. Second level of relief. That means it's on its way. We should have access to it at some point in the future. And then the refund sent. That means it's out. It's on the way. That's not the end of the story, by the way. Just note that if you still had an error with your tax return, then the IRS could come back, not to dampen the story here, but they could come back, anytime within 3 years. So just because you got the refund doesn't mean that you want to throw away the tax return. You don't want to hold on to it, just in case the IRS has questions within the next 3 years or possibly more, given the statute of limitations. But the refund's out, and we should have that soon, and that would be good. So to use it, a taxpayer must enter their Social Security number, or ITIN, individual taxpayer identification number, their filing status, and the exact whole dollar amount of their refund, which you would get from your tax return. The IRS updates Where's My Refund once a day, usually overnight, so there's no need to check more frequently. So if you're looking at this tool and you're saying, it's not giving me the information I want, you're checking it every hour or something like that, that's not going to help, because they only update it once a day. So if you check it maybe in the morning and maybe at night, like twice possibly, that's the only help you're going to get. If you check it hourly, you're kind of wasting your time. So calling IRS doesn't speed up refund timing. So here's where they're going to tell us, please don't call us because we don't want to talk to anybody. But no, they're gonna try to put everything on the website, of course, here. So calling the IRS won't expedite a refund. The information available on Where's My Refund is the same information available on the IRS telephone assister. So if you call them, you're going to get the same information. Ultimately, they're probably looking it up basically in the same kind of area that you have access to. So you're not going to get any added information, most likely, by calling the IRS. So the only reason you want to call them is if you just, you don't want to use the website thing because you'd rather call, then maybe you want to call. But if you want to use the free tool, it should be faster. So most taxpayers who want to prepare their own returns can file electronically for free with IRS Free File. Once again, there's a link to the IRS Free File. That's that third-party software. Some of the big-name brands and some other brands, that have the software preparation, they typically offer a free portion if your adjusted gross income and possibly other things are below a certain threshold, so you can check them out and see if you can get access to it. Make sure that when you do that, you're picking a software that suits your needs, including, does it accommodate the state tax return that you need to be filling out, number one. And number two, if you have an earned income tax credit or refundable credits like a child tax credit possibly, then you want to make sure that it is going to do that as well. So alternatively, taxpayers who qualify can get free tax help from trained volunteers at community sites around the country. So if you want some in-person help, they have that as well, possibly, depending on your location and whatnot. It's less so this year than prior years, but should be available in some places at least. And there's a link to that here if you want to look at where those places may be. So ignore refund myths. Some people mistakenly believe they can expedite their refund by ordering a tax transcript, calling the IRS, or calling their tax preparer. So, and they're saying no, these are myths. So you can't expedite the refund once it's, you sent in the return. It's kind of on autopilot at that point in time, and you're probably, you can do whatever you want, but it's probably not gonna increase the process. And if you do some things, it could delay it. I mean, obviously, if you send in another tax return or try to send in 2 returns or amend it or something like that just to expedite the refund, you may confuse the IRS. And if you confuse the IRS, you don't want to confuse the IRS, because it's hard to unconfuse them, So you want to keep it simple, let them do their thing, and then just wait it out. So ordering a tax transcript will not help a taxpayer get their refund faster or find out when they'll get their refund. Filing options. Taxpayers can use several options to help find a paid tax preparer. One resource is choosing a tax professional. There's a link to that here, which includes a list of consumer tips for selecting tax professionals. The Directory of Federal Tax Return Preparers with Credentials and Select Qualifications, there's a link to that here, is a free, searchable, and sortable database. It includes the name, city, state, and zip codes of credentialed return preparers who are CPAs, enrolled agents, or attorneys, as well as those who have completed their requirements for the IRS annually filing season program. So when you're looking for a paid tax preparer, this is my little thing on here on this topic. One, you're filing your tax return. You have 2 things you're basically looking for. 1, get the return done, meet the immediate need, get the refund as soon as possible. 2, then sorting or picking someone that can help you out for future needs in the future. If your tax return is fairly basic, you probably just need the first one. You're trying to get your refund as quick as possible and get your obligation of filing the return done. You may not need as much information or support for the future because your return's fairly basic. In that case, then you might want to look at the Free File software and use the Free File software, because the interview process may be sufficient to then file the tax return, and you may be able to do that for free, and that could be a good way to go. If your tax return gets more complex, possibly your adjusted gross income is higher, or you have itemized deductions, or possibly you have business income, which doesn't mean you have to then get help at that point, but those are things that could complicate the situation and require you to want to get help at some point so that they can give you advice on both the preparation and for future, be there in the future in case there's questions, and so you could do the tax preparation more easily in the future. You want to set up a system that's going to ease the pain not only now, but in the future of tax preparation and any problems with the IRS. Therefore, you want to choose someone that's going to fit your needs. So if you have like a CPA or enrolled agent or an attorney, can be kind of complex between those 3 categories. So note that any of those 3 can basically represent you with the IRS. So they can file the tax return, and if there's a problem and they need to kind of act as a agent on your behalf or something like that, get a power of attorney in a similar way as you might in a court situation, then they have the ability possibly to do that in that kind of situation. But you may not need that. You may just need the tax preparation for the most part. Notice that the enrolled agents are, all of them, pass some kind of credentials. In order to get those credentials, they have some kind of requirements, thresholds that they need to meet. The enrolled agents are going to be more focused on the tax preparation. So I would think that they're going to be more focused on the individual tax preparation in that case, and probably be specialized in that area. That's what they do. The attorney is a really broad type of category, and they can represent people as agents as well. So typically attorneys are going to have a more specialized need, possibly not simply tax preparation in general, but a specialized area in the tax code. And if you're in one of those specialized areas, that might be, you might be looking there more. And then the CPAs are kind of a little bit more broader, possibly than an enrolled agent. So many times they might not just be doing tax returns, they have to do accounting stuff as well. And that might be appropriate if you have business type of income, like a Schedule C business or other type of entities. They might be more likely to focus in on business type of transactions in addition to just the individual tax returns. And so you can take a look at those. That's just a quick rundown of those. So a search on the database can help taxpayers verify credentials and qualifications of tax professionals. Taxpayers can find answers to questions, forms, and instructions and easy-to-use tools online at IRS.gov, the IRS website, IRS.gov. You can do that anytime. No appointment required and no waiting on hold. So they're really trying to say, please don't call us. That's my interpretation here. Please use our website. We've tried to put everything there. Don't call us, because we'd rather you use the website. So this news release is part of a group of IRS tips called the Tax Time Guide. There's a link to the Tax Time Guide here. The guide is designed to help taxpayers as they near the May 17th, 2021 tax filing deadline. What's the tax filing deadline again? What was it? May 17th? May 17th, 2021 tax filing deadline. If you want more detail on that or the Tax Time Guide, we have links here. There'll be a link to this in the description.